Welcome back to Tactical Insight. Everyone, Arsenal making 2 wins in a row. Been a while since we've been able to say that, and they get a crucial win at Nottingham Forest. We're going to talk about something a little bit different today. We're going to talk about defensive lines, which, to be fair, we've talked about a lot of stuff on this show, but defensive lines isn't something we've actually... I mean, we've talked about Arsenal having a high line, we've talked about our general shape. This has become a real topic, especially for today's show. We talk about Forest and the way they approach the game. But actually something interesting Arsenal did that I'll hold my hands up, I hadn't noticed, you did, but we'll go into it as we work our way through the show. Graham, welcome back, are you well?
Yes, James, yes. Gabriel Jesus scored one and made one as Arsenal got a victory against what I would call the deepest of low blocks last night against Nottingham Forest. First half, Arsenal struggled to create as Forest sat back and absorbed pressure. But I thought it was a tactical tweak from Mikel Arteta that I noticed that I think we're going to talk about today that turned the game on its head in the second half and enabled Arsenal to end up 2-1 winners.
I completely agree. And again, like I said, it wasn't something I noticed, but as you showed it, we looked at some data, it's there. So we'll break that down in just a sec. Let's start by talking about the match stats as we always do. Arsenal had more shots than Forest, 19-9. It makes it seem like Forest had a little bit more of a go than they did. I mean, to be fair, last half hour, for sure, we've got numbers that break that down, but Arsenal in control of large parts of this game really did well to nullify Forest. There were questions about Arsenal's attacking fluidity themselves. Again, we'll explore that. We had as many shots on target as they did, though. That is one thing. We need to be a little bit more efficient. We're 74% of the ball. Plenty of passes and an XG of 1.46 to theirs of 0.42. The attacking stats look good with 105 final third entries, more deep touches, way more zone 14 touches and a field tilt of 85.9%. And the defensive stats as well. We've tackled them more, they intercepted more, and our passes per defensive action was good. But a passes per defensive action of 52.5 might be the highest passes per defensive action I've ever seen in my life. And we've been doing this show, I mean, how long have you been bringing that particular stat? 2 years now?
Yeah.
This is our second season from the start of last season. I've never known a team, for anyone, we always sort of rattle through these stats. We sort of just assume that a lot of people have been watching the show and know from years ago when we first brought this up. Passes per defensive action, as it sounds, is how many passes the opposition a team allows their opposition to have before they make some kind of engagement to win the ball, whether it's a tackle, a foul, an interception, a block, whatever it might be. 52, I mean, I've seen highs of 24.3. This is extraordinary. I've never seen one that high. It just shows you how, I don't even mean critical, that was just their game plan, it's just a fact. Forest didn't want to engage with Arsenal, they wanted to wait for Arsenal to make their errors instead.
It's almost like the Forest had decided to play for a 0-0 on their own pitch, hasn't it? I've watched a lot of Forest over the last few weeks and they've been remarkably good actually in some of the games. They beat Man United 2-1 in a league game I remember I watched a few weeks ago. So I must admit, you have to ask the question, did Nuno the Spirited Santo, as I call him, give Arsenal too much respect, James? Because he did praise Arsenal.
I think he did.
He did praise Arsenal really heavily. But it just seemed to me that Forest didn't come to play football in that first half. They sat literally with everybody behind the ball. And it was the sort of game that, in a way, Arteta dreams of. Arsenal having total control, Arsenal suffocating the opposition, Arsenal not allowing the opposition to get near their goal because the way that Gabriel, Saliba and Rice pushed up beyond the halfway line. And it was a game where Arsenal should, in theory, have created openings and had shots at goal. We did have 9 shots at that first half, but only 1 on target, I think. So, yes, right. It was a strange sort of game in a way. I haven't seen a number like that in the passes per defensive action stat that we use ever. I think that high is amazing.
I've never seen one close. No, I've never seen, I can't remember a 30s, I can't remember a 40s.
But it summed up the way Forest were in that first half, didn't it?
It definitely did. And Scott Willis, I think, really, with this graphic kind of sums it up well. In his tweet, at Scott J. Willis, he says, Nottingham Forest defensive actions heat map, Forest versus Arsenal, one of the lowest blocks, often 21 of 22 players in the final third. And you can see the average line of engagement and the areas where a lot of their defensive actions happen. They were very, very deep for us. So that presented a difficult task for Arsenal. Now, my question is, before we go deep into the stats of the first half compared to later in the game, did Arsenal, in your opinion, do enough to break that down in the first half, or did you sympathise with the low block? We saw Mikel Arteta charging down the touchline at half time, clearly wanting to sort of get on with the message he had. What was your feeling on it all?
I thought the first half, I thought the players weren't moving the ball quickly enough.
Agree with that.
I thought Gabriel and Saliba and Rice were recycling it. Forest weren't getting over the halfway line. We weren't moving the ball quick enough. I thought the players were too rigid, standing in their pockets. There wasn't enough instinctive movement. There was the one action in the first half, I think, when Zinchenko, Smith Rowe, back in the number 8 position for this game, we have to mention that, combined to set the chance up. But apart from that, I thought the players played in their positions and their zones, whatever you want to call it, and I didn't think we did enough. I'll be honest with you. We weren't moving the ball quickly. There was not a lot of space, we have to say that. But at the same time, I would have expected Arsenal to have done more in that first half.
Completely agree. You touched on the first half stats. We had 9 shots there too. We had 1 on target. They didn't have a single one on target. We had 81% of the ball, and we had a 97.5% field tilt, which... Whatever you think of that stat, that's pretty incredible, isn't it?
We won the first half, I think we would outscore it. But the thing is, we talked about Forest's passes per defensive action being over 50, and 97.5% field tilt. And field tilt that means the whole of the game was played around their box in that final third.
Yeah.
And yet we got 9 shots, we only got 1 on target. So I don't know what you make of that, but it just shows the dominance we had. It was total control in that first half, without having the goals to show for it.
The famous Pep Guardiola quote, which I think was reiterated by Thierry Henry, he might have said it again the other day, I can't remember if it was doing the rounds, but he's always said, my job is to get you to the final third, and then your job is to do things there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like Arsenal play in the final third. No, that's just Guardiola's way. Arteta's way might be different, I appreciate that. But generally, Arteta takes a lot of it feels like, he takes a lot of inspiration from the work he did with Pep Guardiola. And when we get to this area of the pitch, I don't know if Arsenal show enough instinct, invention, and just throw a little bit of chaos in there. And we've done shows this before where we've actually lost games or we've needed goals late in games and not found them. And I've talked about Arsenal just not mixing it up like the Liverpool front three, not getting the wingers tied together. Against Palace, I thought we improved in that. And in the second half, I did at one point see Saka inside with Martinelli inside. I thought, okay, maybe we are trying something different. But I don't feel like we cause enough chaos. And sometimes to break down a structure, you need to throw something unstructured at it. You need the anti-structure. Do you know what I mean? You need to just cause complete chaos. I don't think we did that enough.
And I think the problem is we're always playing too intricately around the box, and we're always looking for that perfect pass. Sometimes, James, you just need to put a ball into the box and create the chaos, and or sometimes just do something different. Because when you're playing in such a same way all the time, it's difficult to sort of score the perfect goal. I think, sometimes I just wish they would cross it in early.
I hear it.
And just get a ricochet. And just try something different. And we don't do that
One
enough.
of our best chances came from Zinchenko in this area.
Yeah.
He just lashed a foot at it. It wasn't a high cross.
No.
It kind of trickled into the box.
Yeah.
They didn't deal with it. I think Smith Rowe and Martinelli rolled into Saka and got a shot away. And it was like, well, there you go. That was a crap cross from Zinni, but it made something happen.
So the question is then, Arteta, I heard him say it himself, I coach players to get it up to the final third, and then I want them to use their...
He said it as well.
He said it as well. But are they playing like that? Are they still sort of like playing under instruction? Do they feel free to sort of like do things differently? It doesn't feel like it, does it?
No, not massively. But we credit Forest for at least defending pretty well that first half.
Really well, yeah.
And what we do is actually look at, okay, Arsenal maybe fell a bit short of expectation in that first half. Second half, though, Arteta charges down the touchline, 15 minutes go by, and we get a slightly different second half. 2 things for me changed the game. One was tactical. We're going to let you break that down. Another was an event. But we'll get to that. Let's start with the tactical thing, because what we want to do is put Arsenal in the typical shape that we saw in that first half. And you noticed something about Arsenal later in the game or in the second half you felt was different. Break it down and we'll show it.
Well, I thought that what happened at the start of the second half, I noticed him charge down the touchline. And it was clear to me at the start of the second half, Arsenal had dropped 10 yards deeper. So in the first half, if you look at it, James, everybody was in the Forest half. So this is what happened at the start of the second half. So now,
that's the first half.
That's the first half. If you look at the first half, then James, as I said earlier, you've got Saliba, Gabriel, and Rice were literally high in their half. So if you look at it, the whole of 21 players are in the Forest half. You look at the space. There's very little space. So what did Arteta do? I thought he asked the Arsenal players to step back. I would say 10 yards at the start of the second half. So Saliba and Gabriel dropped slightly. Rice dropped slightly as well. Now, what that did, I think, it sort of like invites Forest to come forward more. When Forest come forward more. Their players come forward now because the players have dropped. You get more space between the lines. It creates more space.
Yeah.
And so when you've got that, you've got chances now. If you do move the ball quicker, you can start combining better and creating little triangles, and you can get your wingers and your number 8s closer together in pockets of space where they got space to operate. And we saw it immediately with the situation where they created that wonderful opening for Jesus where he hit the post. So I thought that was the tactical tweak. He literally got our defensive players to step back 10 yards, to force Forest to come forward more, which created gaps between the lines for our wide players and our number 8s to combine.
Yeah, completely agree. You're trying to make space for. Let's highlight them here. For Smith Rowe in that pocket, and you're trying to do it for Ødegaard in that pocket. And I'm going to hold my hands up. I hadn't noticed this. You sent me your notes, and I was reading through. I thought this is really interesting, and it makes sense. You've got this whole pitch. Use it.
Yeah.
It's the reason why sometimes teams play out the back with their centre backs right there, so that they're inviting a better press and there's more space.
Yeah, of course.
That's the concept. It's step back to move forward.
Exactly. And if Forest weren't going to press as high, which they weren't, and they weren't going to sit in this deepest of low blocks, you've got to create the space. And I think the first half, the lesson I think he learned in the first half, as much as he wanted that control, he wanted to smother them, was we didn't have the space to get our combinations going. That's why I think he tweaked it.
And if you don't want to take our word for it, let's get up. Where is it? The high line in the first half. So what I've got here, that's the amazing Stat Zone app. What we've got is from minute 0 to 45. Here's the Arsenal average position. This is a player influence map. So I've explained this before, but essentially the bigger the name, the more influential they were in the game, but also where they're placed is the average position. You can see the average position. Well, let's remove Matt Turner. We don't need him there. You can see the average position of the Forest players, but you can see Gabriel Saliba right on the touchline with Rice and Cheng a little bit tucked in, White a little bit tucked in. That is the first 45. Now, I'm not going to show you the second 45, the reason being, because once we scored, a little bit of defending to do, that skews the data. So what I will show you is how we looked right up until we scored that first goal. And you can see Saliba deeper, Rice on the halfway line, Gabriel deeper as well, and a little bit of breathing room for Ødegaard in between the other players. That was the idea. And like I said, I hadn't seen it myself, but the way you've broken it down, the data, the player influence maps from StatZone are proving the point that for 20 minutes, when we were still needing a goal in that second half, that is exactly how we played, and it seemed to create space for Arsenal. So, yeah, I mean, that's clever from Arteta, and I feel like that might have been something he conjured mid-game and thought, okay, I need to deliver this message now to the players.
Yeah, and I think the players responded second half. I thought we were more free-flowing in the second half, and that was exemplified by Gabriel Jesus. I thought that his influence on the game grew in the second half. Not only did he, quick bit of thinking, I have to say, from Zinchenko from the throw-in for him to score that goal. Partly you have to blame Matt Turner, I suppose. It went between his legs because all he has to do is defend the near post. But I thought his influence in the second half, when the spaces opened up, was more there. You could see his influence growing on the game. I thought we got Saka was making some really good runs in the second half. I love the way he took his goal with his right foot, because they were expecting him to go, I think, onto his left, and he took it with his right. I've been wanting to see that for a long time. But I thought he was taking his players on more in that second half when the space opened up. I thought Ødegaard was combining more in the wide areas with the winger on that side. Martinelli, who didn't have his best game, was still having some moments centrally before he was hooked, and Trossard came on and did a really good little cameo. And I thought that we just made more of the space which Arteta's tweak created.
Yeah, completely agree. Now, I said that there were two things that changed that match. Firstly, the tactical thing. We give credit to Arteta and the players for that. But another is a circumstance. It's a moment. It's an event. And it's nothing particularly clever, I'm about to say. It's a goal. Now, the minute Arsenal scored that first goal, it felt like the game swung a little bit. Maybe not. There was the Jesus chance, and that, they hit the post, and that's fine. But in terms of, once Arsenal get that first goal, they seem to relax. They seem to go, okay, we've done the hardest bit. Now let's either build on that, or let's protect it, whatever. Arsenal have been quite good at building on that momentum. Now, we've got some data here that kind of just shows you that the minute the goal was scored, it changes the game, and it's no surprise that Arsenal then, for the 30 minutes after, look a lot more open. So at the end of the game, I was sort of having some debates on Twitter where I was saying, look, we weren't great, but delighted we won. So we were saying, what do you mean not great? We created chance, we created openings. I'm like, but did we? Or did the fact we got that first goal sort of swing the momentum and suddenly we were able to do that? But it was hard work getting to that point. So you've got some of the numbers here. Forest managed 3 shots in the first 64 minutes. Once we got the goal, there's 6 shots on our goal. Then he completed a single attacking third pass up until we scored, where they then completed 25 after that. More take-ons and more crosses, and you see Arsenal's numbers go down. But when you look at the XG, up to 54 minutes when Jesus hits the post, we only create an XG of 0.54. So Arsenal, for 54 minutes to play, hadn't really done enough to work Matt Turner. I think the first two shots on target came from Forest in that game. Yeah. So there's something about Arsenal where the shackles are released and they do seem to grow into it once they've got that first goal. And I think you could see that a little bit against Palace. Like, you know, if we scored after 10 minutes, it takes a set piece and then takes another set piece, but then we counter-attack. And suddenly you see Arsenal playing like they can sort of score with every attack. But I certainly didn't feel that until we got that third goal in that game. And that seems to be a trend with Arsenal. You know, West Ham, we never got that first goal. We were always chasing. We created good chances, to be fair, in that game. But I can't help but feel that there's still something not right about our attack unless we get that first goal and suddenly everyone seems to relax and the space is there. Now, part of that is obviously, none of this is rocket science. Well, we've scored, so Forest need a goal, so they open up. I understand that, but it's, can we do more to break down a team before that kind of moment has happened, is what I'm saying. I don't know, maybe I'm being harsh, because ultimately Jesus shows some great skill and gets the goal, and that is opening up a team. So, I don't know, am I being harsh, or do you think Arsenal do tend to relax a lot more once that first goal comes?
I think a lot of it's down to game state.
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
And the fact is when you know, the hardest thing in football is to score a goal. So teams sit in their shape when the game is level, and then of course when they go behind, they have to change, they have to do more, they have to open up. The thing about this Arsenal team is, I said it last time I was on the show with you, last year we caught teams off guard a lot the way we played, because teams were pressing us higher, and we got Zinchenko inverting into midfield so we could play around their press. We had Jesus to come and build the play. We got the ball quickly to our wide players, and this is the strength of the team for me in transition. So when we go one goal up, James, and teams then have to come onto us a bit more, spaces open up, and then we can be the team that we are, which I think is more of a transition team. Sure. And you saw it in the second goal, because the moment that Forest gave that ball away, the spaces for us to work with, brilliant combination play. Jesus picks the right ball across to Saka. And that comes from transition. The fact that Forest are more open because they can't get 5 back in defence to defend. And I think sometimes, you know, you need to sort of get that first goal. And I think last season we were doing it earlier in games and teams were having to come on to us more, and then we were better because we could play more in transition and they more openness to work through. This season that hasn't been the case because we haven't been scoring early goals. So
fair point.
You know, and I think it is. I understand what you're saying. Can we be doing more? Yes, we can. I think we can be doing more by maybe changing some of the things in the way we build up. You made a great point. We're too predictable. The way we're too intricate around the box. We need to be more instinctive. We need to maybe try and create a bit of chaos in the box, do something different. But Arteta wants the team to play in this way, and that's why we haven't been scoring, I think, early goals in games this season. When the game's more open and we can, and this is what teams are frightened of, why they have 5 at the back, while they've always got their centre mids coming across to help their defenders. When Saka gets the ball and Martinelli gets the ball, they try and shut off the pockets because they know what they can do, the danger, what these players are. They are elite players, you know, give them the space and they will take advantage. But when the game opens up and you've got that first goal, they have to then change the way they play. And then these players become more devastating and create more opportunities than they did in that second half.
Agreed. Let's talk about Gabriel Jesus. 63 touches, 25 passes completed, 7 duels won, completed 3 out of 5 dribbles in the game, 2 key passes and got a goal and an assist. Now, those numbers, they're at a good surface level, but I want to give a little bit more credit to his numbers generally. Now, he's a player who is criticised for not having really high output as a 9, especially when we're talking about goal scoring. And listen, I'm not here to provide any data that disproves that. We can all see with our eyes. Eye test. This is a tactical show where we look at data and stats, but eye test before anything, okay? You can see that Jesus is missing chances and he's not a proper focal point in terms of like a out-and-out number 9 goal scorer that is going to get 30 a season. I hear that. But I wonder if his numbers are slightly too harshly reflected on. And I've got some numbers here for Jesus for his 23-24 season so far. He's played 23 games in all competitions. He's got 8 goals, 5 assists. That's 13 goal contributions in 23 games. When you add a little bit more context to that, that's 1,444 minutes of football he has played. The reason he's played so little is because he had 3 injuries, which you can see there on the graphic as well. That equates to about 16 matches. 1,444 minutes, or something like that. If I've got it wrong, apologies, let me know in the comments. It's about that. He's played 5 full 90s, only 4 in the league. So only 4 full 90 minutes in the league. He's only had 13 starts in the Premier League. Now, you can't, he got a goal coming off the bench against Man United, so coming off the bench counts, right? But he's not exactly had, with the 3 injuries as well, a total building of momentum, really, since his injury, the one end of last season. Started this season injured, came back, got injured against Sevilla, came back, got injured again, I think in training, I can't remember when it was. And I just feel a bit sorry for him, because his output isn't that bad, in my opinion, for someone who's been really in and out the team, and for someone who is playing on a side that aren't attacking as well as last season. We've talked about it, but albeit we attack a lot. I don't know, I just feel like the numbers show that we're maybe being a touch too harsh on Jesus.
I think when we bought him, I didn't think we were ever getting a 25 goal a season striker.
Yeah.
I will say that. At Man City, his numbers reflected, he scored goals, but he missed a lot of chances, and I think since he's been at Arsenal, the worry for me more is around the injuries. When he plays, his record is not too bad, and I'm going to, in a moment, show you some stats this season I'm going to read out in comparison to Osimhen, who everyone's talking up as the next best thing who we could have up front. Me personally, I think you did a great piece on your channel the other week about, I think he is going to Chelsea.
Yeah,
but the reality is, if you compare Jesus' numbers to Osimhen's, you'll see there's not much in it, and Jesus slightly shades them. I'll do it in a minute. But I think the situation with him is, at Man City, and I made this point to you before we did the show today, him and Zinchenko, who's another one who we brought in, played less minutes. They were rotated more. And because they got to play like 2 games a week at Arsenal, and we're relying on them more than what Man City would have relied on, because they had players who they could rotate more, that's the worry for me. He keeps picking up injuries. Because when he plays, there's no doubt about it, he is a top player for us. His goals is not too bad, but it's what he offers to the team. He offers that free-flowing spirit. In a team that's not free-flowing, he's the most free-flowing player for me. And he creates things, not just scores goals. And the thing I like about him, James, is last night, we had a brilliant piece of intricate play where we did work it brilliantly to him. He hit the post.
That was really good football.
And he missed a big chance. You never see his head drop. It's almost like he's just sort of puts it to the back of his mind. He just gets on with the game. And then 5 minutes later, he scored a goal from an angle that really has no right to score from. He hasn't let that influence him in a way. He's then up for the next chance, and that's the thing I love about him. And these stats that I mentioned with Osimhen this season, Osimhen has scored 8 goals and 3 assists in all competitions. That includes 2 penalties. 1,315 minutes. That's a goal contribution every 119 minutes. Gabriel Jesus, in comparison, 8 goals and 5 assists in all comps. 1,444 minutes. That's a goal contribution every 111 minutes. He's making a goal contribution every 8 minutes quicker than Osimhen, who everybody is lauding to be the sort of striker we need. I do think we need a physical striker, a taller profile. I get that. But this player, Jesus, what he offers the team, working across the front line, and his scoring and goal contribution record isn't as bad as what people believe.
We talked about Saka and the goal he got. 81% pass accuracy, 72 touches, completed 38 of his 47 passes, had 4 key passes in the game, won all his tackles, 3 ground duels, 2 interceptions, and got a goal as well. I wish we could spend more time with Bukayo Saka. I just think he was very good, and I agree. He was sort of getting back to his best. I thought Zinchenko was really good in the game as well. We haven't brought up his numbers, but we looked at them. They are impressive, especially in that first half. I felt like everything was kind of going through him.
I think one thing I'll say, I thought he was a little bit moving it too. He wasn't switching it quick enough for me. He was a part of the build-up. I think he was not moving it quick enough for me, I thought. But he did have good numbers, I'll give that. But I just wanted to see him sometimes just move it quicker and switch it,
And yes, I can hear you all screaming in the comment section. What about the goals? Zinchenko isn't with the high line. Listen, I know I was on the watch along. I saw the position of White, Saliba, Gabriel, and he is clearly the deepest. The one thing I'd say is we don't know for sure it's not instruction to, follow the switch. I always think that kind of thing, it's frustrating. If he's in line, it's easy to say, well, the winger would be offside, but the winger probably also isn't making that run that far if Zinchenko, I don't know, maybe he is, I don't know, but and I'm not saying it's poor from Zinchenko, he should hold the line, but I thought he largely defended well in that game. And for me, Saliba's got to do better on Awoniyi. So for me, that's where the error really happened. So what? The switch was played. And okay, listen, it sounds like I'm doing everything to excuse Zinchenko. He wasn't great on that goal, I know. I just think Saliba shouldn't get beaten that
No,
easily.
He has to, James, you're 100%
there.
right. He has to be stronger there. Saliba has to be stronger in that challenge. Great, he had a great game last night, Saliba, but that moment he didn't handle very well. And everyone's looking again at Zinchenko, but you also have to think that Saliba should have done better there. And Zinchenko's a bit of an easy target at the moment every time we concede. The annoying thing for me is that basically we had total control of that game. We didn't look like giving them any sort of chances. We should have had a clean sheet, and once again we didn't get one. And that's the disappointing thing I think that Arteta will want to look at.
Agreed. And the final thing I just want to touch on super quickly is Arsenal's league results. I've got win, draw and loss all in a row. And what you can see here, I've highlighted any time we've put together a little bit of a run. You can see 2 wins, a draw, 2 wins, a draw, 2 wins, a draw, a win, a defeat, 4 wins in a row, a defeat, a win, a draw, 2 defeats, 2 wins. Arsenal haven't actually been very good this season, apart from that spell where we beat Wolves, Luton, Burnley, and someone else. I can't remember quite who. Like that was a time where Arsenal actually put some momentum together, started winning games, and so got 12 out of 12 on the board, put a little bit of pressure. It led to us actually being top of the league because of Liverpool's, the draw at Anfield, and others didn't capitalise, so we ended up top. We're going to need to do a little bit more of that because that's 2 wins in our last 5. Okay, it is 2 wins in a row as well. So we need to start building momentum, and it's Liverpool this weekend.
Of course, and it's the first time we've won consecutive games since early December, and those 2 games you talked about, which was Wolves and Luton away. That's the last time we got consecutive wins. But the one thing I will say is that against the same sort of opposition, if you look at the stats overall, we're only slightly, I think, 4 points worse off against the same teams as we were this season. I know we've had a bit of a bad run recently where we've lost 2 league games and also lost a cup game, but we've now, I think, as much as you can go on a losing run, and we did, now we've got a bit of momentum going into the Liverpool game with back-to-back wins, and I hope that will sort of help us going into that Liverpool game on Sunday, James.
I think so. Football, well, things change quickly in football, let's put it that way. The roundup stats, Graham, take it away.
Just 3 roundup stats for you this week, James. Arsenal attempted 756 passes in this game. The only game that they ever attempted more was, funny enough, against the same opponents, Nottingham Forest at the Emirates. 769.
There you go.
This shows you what happens when you complete a lot of passes when teams set off you.
Yep.
Gabriel Jesus continues his remarkable run, James, of never losing a game in the Premier League in which he has scored.
Yeah, love that.
It currently stands at 60 games in all. And a great one to end with about our star boy, Bukayo Saka. Saka is the first player to record 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists in all competitions for Arsenal in successive seasons since a certain Alexis Sanchez did so with 3 times running from 2014-15 to 2016-17.
There you go, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hit the like button if you did enjoy it. Get in the comments as well. We're always in there reading your thoughts, getting your insight as well. Maybe things we've missed that we can mention on the next show, and let us know how you're feeling for the Liverpool game. There will be preview content coming out across the channel for the big one. There's a lot of great content, so just keep an eye, hit the bell so you get all the alerts. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. A big thanks to Graham as always. Arsenal make it 2 out of 2. Let's hope we keep building, and it's a big one on Sunday to close the gap.